Together again. I mean, can you believe it? We're face to face thanks to the power of biotechnology. Now, our member companies, large and small, have done the impossible, creating vaccines faster than ever before, with the highest stakes in a century for global health. Now, we're never going to know how many millions of lives we've saved in this pandemic because so many biotech companies work together so tirelessly. To bio members, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, Gilead, Regeneron, Eli Lilly, Vir, GSK, Merck, Xencor, and Novavax, whose innovations saved lives and in many countries contained a deadly plague in record time. We say, thank you. Now, we still wonder sometimes if the world understands the enormity of what transpired in those early months of 2020. It's kind of something like you'd read in a Hollywood script, only science nonfiction. On January 11th, while the world slept, the Chinese government put the genetic sequence of SARS-CoV-2 online. And Moderna scientists, working together with the NIH, designed the vaccine literally on their computers. They didn't have access to the virus itself yet, but they had something even more important, its genetic code. 2 days later, Moderna's scientists had the vaccine designed. Talk about next-generation biotech. They decoded and neutralized a highly pathogenic, novel virus before ever putting it under a microscope. Now, if our industry can do that and get shots in arms in just 1 year's time, there's truly no limit to what we can accomplish. Now, I remember those surreal days in the early days. Our company and Carta, at our company and Carta, sanitation crews came through to wipe down the door handles in our building, inside and out, every single hour. We socially distanced our scientists in the labs, and we fought to designate our industry's scientists for what they truly are, the ultimate essential workers. And it's our responsibility to keep them safe. Now, at Encarta, we weren't working on COVID-19 vaccines. We were working on a breakthrough to utilize the body's own natural killer cells to defeat cancer. Our vision is to bring cell therapy out of the intensive care unit into the community setting, dramatically expanding access for cancer patients. Biotech companies across our industry during COVID all found a way to keep going. Pause our research? Never. Biotech innovation never stops. Yet today, in the cruelest of ironies, the young companies at the vanguard of a revolution in medical research are fighting for our own lives. Biotech is bleeding. Hundreds of small and emerging biotechs are starved for capital and struggling to survive, a victim of the emerging post-pandemic world that our industry made possible. Venture funding is down 60%. Hundreds of promising companies are staring in the financial abyss, facing the prospect of running out of cash in a couple of years. And the global economic shocks of COVID-19 recovery, the uncertainty, the volatility, the inflation, the war in Ukraine, these factors are conspiring to cause retrenchment and reinvestment into less risky ventures. 96% of our clinical trials don't reach their desired endpoints. That's why in this bear market, even good data can lead to sell-offs and stock drops. Yet recently at Encarta, we were fortunate enough to experience a trifecta. 2 cell therapy candidates simultaneously declared themselves with positive early-stage readouts, showing complete responses in patients with blood cancer, validating our platform. The preliminary data led to a stock increase of 140%. We were then able to raise $230 million in capital the very next day, helping us to keep innovating for patients. So I just have to believe that all is not lost. Investment will come back and innovation will be rewarded because the fundamentals of our industry are still strong. We're biotech. We're survivors, meaningful in purpose, fighting for patients. The truth is, we're waking up to a world that looks very different than it did just 2.5 years ago. A new normal of infectious disease threats and exposure to exotic pathogens that our immune systems have not evolved yet to fight. We need to listen to the evolutionary virologists telling us that COVID won't be the last pandemic we face in our lifetime. Now, biotech companies are poised to answer this call and unlock the secrets to conquer so many diseases, but we must have the resources to do that. Too many folks in Washington still have the wrong impression about who we are, as if we're causing and not solving mankind's greatest problems. They want to slash the wholesale costs of new medicines, they want to waive our intellectual property protections, and limit our data exclusivity. Politicians who praise our industry for providing COVID-19 vaccines in record time, only to undermine our ecosystem and drain our resources at humanity's expense, are playing a dangerous game. Governments incentivize and invest in the things they value. What matters more right now than biomedical innovation? In times like this, honoring our social contract is especially important, in my opinion. Our companies must be allowed to price our medicines for a return on investment. But when patents expire, let those drugs and biologics go generic without undue complication or delay. That is how we will win the trust back on Capitol Hill. And we must because the world needs us. We face many threats as CEOs. Our employees, boards, and investors want us to use the platform we've been given and not stay silent. So as an individual, I won't be muzzled when limits are being placed on our most basic human rights, civil rights, women's rights, gay rights, and the right to democracy itself. So in the face of these challenges, it's the job of leaders to stand up and lead. Now, I'm currently leading my 5th biotech company, but long before I was a CEO, I was a patient advocate. At 13, I was diagnosed with severe Crohn's disease. Sorry about that. So at 19, I traded my colon for a life free of pain but full of purpose. Now, working in biotech since 1984, I've learned that partnerships with patient advocates are among the most important in our industry. We exist so that patients benefit from us, not the other way around. Now, if you want to know what motivates me, look no further than Brian LaRue. He almost died at childbirth. They lost his heart rate, broke his clavicles, forcibly removing him from his mother's womb, stretched his spinal cord. To this day, he lives in involuntary muscle contractions, tremors, spasms, limited function in his lower extremities. But when he was 7, his mom found a skeletal muscle relaxant developed by a company in this room that relaxed his spasms and helped him unclench his frozen fists. When he was 14, he first attended a summer camp run by a patient advocacy organization that I chair for youth with 54 diagnoses of the bowel and bladder. Now, it was there at Youth Rally where he met another kid just like him. Sterling was also in a wheelchair. One day, they went to visit the rock wall to see what the fuss was all about. Now, Brian wanted to prove something to Sterling, so he approached Alex, the climbing instructor, a former Youth Rally camper himself. Now, as a baby, Alex was given up by his birth parents to a Chinese orphanage because he had a birth defect in his gastrointestinal tract. But he was adopted by a single mom here in the United States who never gave up on him. Today, he's a colorectal surgeon. Thank you for that pause. That helps. All right. So now at the base of the wall, Brian asked Alex if he'd help him make it up a couple of rungs. The wall was, after all, a telephone and a pole and a half high. And what happened in the next few minutes, Brian will tell you, was the foundation of everything he's accomplished in his life since. Starting his own business, building a Facebook community of 40,000, and his current job as VP of Sales at a solar panel company. The muscle relaxant allowed him to grip the rocks, and Alex positioned Brian's feet on the first toehold. With all his might, Brian pulled with his arms while Alex pushed underneath. Together, grunt by grunt, they began to scale that wall. And as they ascended, a group of campers gathered to watch, joined by me in absolute slack-jawed amazement. When they finally reached the top, drenched in sweat, Brian looked down and saw his discarded wheelchair and his stunned fellow campers. Then he saw his friend Sterling, and he began to cry, just like me, a mess, right? So did I. This is why we do what we do. So, I'm done, thank goodness. If we support one another, keep the faith, never relent as we make that climb against all the odds, we will weather this storm. And our potential to create miracles will be truly limitless. Thank you. Okay. So early this year, our partners at Science History Institute recognized a leader who has advanced innovation and improved the lives of patients. This year's honoree helped transform San Diego into the powerhouse for biotechnology breakthroughs that it is. He is a pioneer and a champion for so much of the innovation that happened across this region. Dr. Ivor Royston was the co-founder of San Diego's first biotechnology company and has been instrumental in the formation, the financing, and the development of numerous companies throughout his career. Now today, he is the president and CEO of Viracta Therapeutics, a local company focused on novel therapies for viral-associated cancers. And he's also the winner of this year's Biotechnology Heritage Award. Please take a look.
Ivor is very curious. He's persuasive, he's inspirational, and he's persistent.
He's innovative, and he's tenacious.
He's a risk taker, and he's bold.
When I think of Ivor, I think of two things, joy and generosity.
Ivor is a Renaissance man.
He's dedicated,
Consummate entrepreneur.
Ivor has always been an inspirational leader. From the time I first met him 44 years ago.
Ivor was a real pioneer because industry and academia had, in those days, were quite separate. At Hypertech, he brought the science to the management and industry know-how to develop something.
He also was a team builder. You know, when you want to solve these big, hairy problems, you don't do them by yourself.
He really approaches problems without a fear of failure, and that's thinking all things are possible, and that's what he did.
And the success that the city has had has been very much influenced and determined by the example that he set.
Well, I think my proudest accomplishment is what I've done for the city of San Diego, and being able to show that you can, in an academic environment, be involved with industry and companies, which of course now is very commonplace.
Ivor's role was equally important in the creation of an industry that was able to work to bring technology and intellectual property and therapies really from the bench to the clinic to patients.
He's a tremendous advocate for patients.
With Ivor's help, a drug was developed that he recommended to my wife for cancer treatment, and it saved her life.
As a 14-year-old, he declared that he would devote his life to curing cancer. Imagine that.
He's still got that, sort of childlike hunger to continue to make a difference.
His patients are still first, and he wants to save lives. And I think when you have that kind of a goal, it keeps you going.
My whole life has been really driven about developing new cancer treatments. What I've learned is that I can do it better by working with industry. We're making such great strides in curing disease. All the big diseases that afflict mankind are going to be solved someday.
Ivor deserves this award because of the impact that he has had in promoting biotech as a way of curing disease.
I think the legacy is really what he started in San Diego and what he's done for patients and families.
Ivor has been one of the biggest philanthropists in the life science community and in the community in general.
With the La Jolla Playhouse and the San Diego Symphony, longtime supporters like Ivor have really played a role in strengthening those institutions.
That's what I meant by saying Renaissance man. I don't know very many people who've been cancer center director, CEO, successful venture capitalist, Tony-winning Broadway producer, and back to CEO again.
Ivor, congratulations on receiving this award. And as always, I cannot wait to see what you do next.